All right, guys, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening. How's it going? Good, good. Glad to hear it. You guys have a nice weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And it wasn't really the most exciting game, I guess. You know, I mean, if you're a Patriots fan, it's obviously a good thing. But I was surprised that the Rams, as explosive as their offense has been all year, I don't know what happened. But I know obviously the Patriots play good defense, but the Rams play good defense too. And but anyway, we'll talk a little bit about. After the break, we'll look at a couple of the top commercials, and we'll look at the overall rating and all that for the game and stuff like that, and kind of compare that to some other years. And anyway, so yeah, I'm recording the lecture tonight, which I have not done before. So I got my, I guess, old school PC. I've actually thinking about converting to Mac. But anyway, recording that. So anyway, if you guys don't mind me doing that, because I can't meet with the other section tomorrow evening, and I'll explain that to you guys later as well. All right, so with that being said, what we'll do is we'll start off with chapter 4. We'll finish that out. Remember, we talked about the other two schools of management. Finish those out, and then we'll get into chapter 2. Chapter 2 is, like I mentioned before, is really a critical chapter because we go over a lot of fundamentals on what a market is, and about market competition, and just a variety of different things that I think you'll find interesting. Some of it gets a little technical, some of the stuff, but it's kind of good fundamentals to understand for the media industry. So before I get going, any questions from you guys? Any questions, concerns? Hopefully you're able to get a copy of the book, or at least able to get a copy of the prompts for the case studies. Are they going okay? So far, good. All right, I'll get you guys feedback for sure within the next couple of days on chapter 1. So that first one, my intention was to have it for you tonight, but I will get that to you guys. So good. All right, so we'll pick up here. If you remember, what were the other two schools of management? So this is sort of the third one. We spent last week talking about the other two. Yes? What's that? Behavioral, actually behavioral is another word for it. Human relations, behavioral, yeah, absolutely, so that's good. You can actually, it's synonymous, kind of. And what's your name again? I'm good at Tino? Okay, nice. Yes, it does help me learn y'all's names. Good, okay, yes.
Classical?
Okay, yeah, classical, yeah. Classical school management, your name?
Oh, M.
M?
Spelled like Amy.
Okay, but you go by M, okay. Cool, thanks. Thanks, Tim. So yeah, very good. Yeah, those are the two classical, or those are the two schools. So the classical school management is basically, again, it's all about coming from the top down, from management directives looking down at employees, and it's all about efficiency, what's the most efficient way to do it. But in terms of its approach, it's kind of fundamental. It's basically like, okay, let's just pay people appropriately, give them some benefits, and then other than that, we're going to really watch what they do and try to monitor what they do, and hopefully it produces good results and it's efficient. And the human relations or the behavioral school then basically then says, well, wait, employees have needs other than just getting paid. Let's make them feel good about working here. Let's make them feel valued. Let's make them feel like they're accomplishing, developing some sense of achievement. Let's make sure that they are growing as employees within our organization, even though maybe eventually they might leave us for greener pastures, but at least for now they are with us. So, so both of those schools, the focus is efficiency. It's just different approaches. It just, again, the second one, just values more people and values, more so than just saying here's the job and here's, management looking down. So, in the 1960s, and of course each one of these later times, you remember the classical school? When did that one kind of come about? Do you remember about the era and time it came out? Yeah, 1800s. Right, good. Industrial Revolution, good. Industrial Revolution. I'm sorry, your name again over here? Mimi? Okay, thank you. And Kiana? So, yeah, exactly. Industrial Revolution. Then the next one, the behavioral school, human relations, was in the 1930s. So this is the 1960s. They really started looking at, okay, what can we learn from these two other schools that that there can be additional insights that we can draw from that. And it started to look at things and say, okay, well, efficiency is important, but maybe there's something else we can look at, and that is actually effectiveness. So when you think about the two terms, I mean, how do you think, how is effectiveness different than efficiency the way you see it? I mean, a lot of companies and managers will focus on efficiency, but is that really the most important thing? It might be perhaps to the manager, but any thoughts on that? Effectiveness. How is effectiveness different than efficiency? That's what I'm asking.
I feel like
Yes.
efficiency is more of like it just works, and that's effectiveness. And efficiency is more of it works using as least resources as possible.
Okay, good. Good. Sorry, your name again?
So S-A-U-L.
Yes, I'm sorry.
A-U-L.
AUL again. Thank you. Seoul.
That's Saul.
So,
Yes.
so, okay, thank you. So good, yeah, exactly. And that's one of the key things is, yeah, you have certain resources to work with, and then what can you, if you're efficient, you can use the least amount of resources to get the job done. So either those resources don't have to be financial, although they could be, but maybe you can do something in half the time as somebody else. Maybe you can do it,
Effort too.
what's that?
Effort is a resource too.
Yeah, effort is a resource, people a resource, right? Equipment, resource. If you can do something with less equipment, which generally means less money,
It's more efficient.
going out. Good, good. You had your hand up back there? Did you something you wanted to add with that?
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna answer the question.
Okay, so same idea. All right, cool. I'll put your name down anyway. So what's your name?
Oh, my name's Quincy.
I'm sorry.
Quincy.
Okay, thanks. Cool. All right, yeah. So there's a couple different approaches we'll look at. Now the book talks about a few others, but these are the ones just for sake of time we'll focus on. Because again, I do want to move on to chapter 2, but there's management management by objectives, management effectiveness, there's strategic management, spend a little bit of time on that, and then there's flat leadership, which again, that's why this chapter works really well right after chapter 1, because we've already kind of talked about leadership and management versus leadership. So those are the three we're going to look at. In terms of effectiveness, again, these two schools look at productivity, they look at efficiency, and that's really kind of their focus. It's all about, how can we streamline processes? How can we do things quicker, less money, less resources, and all that. And again, if you're you can look really good as a manager if you can do that. Again, if you can produce some content and you can do it in half the time, under budget and all of that, and you can blow the socks off of whoever you're preparing this production for, this content for, you can really look like a hero. But there is, again, as part of effectiveness, which is really important. And and effectiveness could be different things. Like one way to measure effectiveness might be overall sales, overall revenue, which you can measure in terms of what you're selling in terms of advertising or subscription revenue, or using some other model or business-to-business type model. That could be a measure of effectiveness. Can you think of another potential measure of effectiveness that a media company could use, or even another company would be use? Yes.
Viewership?
Yeah, viewership's a big thing. Yeah, I mean, and there's a lot to be said for that. And whenever they're developing new programs, oftentimes they have a certain goal in mind. We want to achieve this number of viewers. We want to achieve a 4 rating in Women 1834. We want to achieve X number of millions of overall viewers in households, things like that. So that's a good. So oftentimes, when you look at effectiveness and efficiency, really, oftentimes you're looking at things that are very tangible, just kind of as measuring sticks. How are we doing, right? So same kind of thing. When you're in school, maybe you have a certain goal. By the time you graduate, you want to make sure you're at that 3.0, right? Maybe, which is a good place to be, certainly if you're thinking about postgraduate work, things like that. But and you can kind of gauge your progress. I mean, maybe you have a bad semester. Sometimes that happens, but then you can gauge your progress, and hopefully maybe the next semester you bounce back and you bring that GPA up. And obviously that's a way to constantly keep track of exactly how you're doing. So we kind of talked about that, and one of the big things of effectiveness is really actually attaining the goals that you set out to attain. And that's why it is important to have goals in general, not only for yourselves individually, but also as a company, as a unit. Whether you're working in marketing or you're working in production, or whatever it might be, or executive management, you're gonna have overall goals laid out. And sometimes you lay them out yourself, but oftentimes they're coming from above. Now, if you're the CEO, then you're the top person determining what those objectives might be. So, management by objectives kind of being the first one. Does anybody, from the reading, from the case study, kind of get an idea what management by objectives is? Essentially, was it clear to you? No? Okay. That's an honest answer. It can be a little confusing. Yes, sir.
Alright, essentially you set objectives for your employees and then they perform that on their own in a way. So
Mhm.
you're just giving them a task and everybody's doing it, so you don't have to micromanage.
Good. Yeah, I think one of the key parts about it is, within a division of an organization, you have certain goals that you set in mind. If you're the manager, you're heading up that division, then you have these goals in mind. And part of it is meeting with each individual employee that works for you and making sure that they're clear on the objectives and make sure that they have buy-in on it too, because that's the most important thing, because you want them to kind of be able to do it on their own. You don't really want to have to micromanage them, as you were saying, and you want them to perform on their own. That way it's thought that if you do have this buy-in, and you do take the time to kind of meet with them individually and make sure they know what's expected of them and they know what the goals are and things like that, they're going to get there, and hopefully that way they'll have that sense of accomplishment and they'll feel a lot better about working for you. So good. Your name again? Preston. Thanks, Preston. Again, I'll just do this name thing just first 2-3 weeks until, or maybe the first month until I get to know your names. Okay, so defining specific goals for each unit, sharing his objectives with each unit and employee. This guy, Peter Drucker, pictured here, he was kind of considered the father of modern media management theory. And you see throughout this chapter, there's grandfathers, there's mothers, there's fathers, so there's you see a lot of that terminology, certainly. But again, just meaning that, these are basically the founders of the idea, and of course, other people further develop the idea and implement the idea and things like that. So, but the key part, again, is the agreement between employees and managers, which is a lot of that kind of sounds a lot like the human relations school, because again, you're not just telling people, okay, here's what you're going to do, and you're going to like it, and if you don't, so what, I'll find somebody else. It's not like that. You sit down with them and you make sure they're clear on it, what you want them to do. At the same time, you find out, okay, what are their thoughts about it? Maybe there's some concerns they have. Maybe they feel like, what's being asked of them maybe isn't entirely in their wheelhouse, and maybe you give them another range of responsibilities or a few different responsibilities. Maybe it's something they feel like they need a little more time to get that goal. Or maybe they hear that and say, well, no, I can do better than that. You want me to do this sales number or this rating? Well, I can double that. And of course, certainly a manager loves to hear those kind of things from employees, the enthusiasm and the drive. At the same time, though, you have to be careful too, because sometimes you can overpromise and underdeliver. So you got to be careful with that. So one of the key things, though, is management retaining the external control, but then individuals with the self-control, that being a big thing. And again, without that buy-in by employees, it doesn't really work. All right, so that's that. In terms of an MBO system, management by objective system, when you look at a media company, what might be one way you could implement something like this? Or can you think of an example? Could be any aspect of media where you could do something like this. Any ideas? Yes.
Manager, I'll put in maybe terms that, I know maybe for instance, like a writer's room, a pre-production office in a media firm. The head writer could distribute a certain amount of scripts to be done between individuals and set a timeline for them, but how they go about, there's not individual checkpoints, there's just the scripts due by this date, and then how they get to that point is up to the individuals.
Okay, good. That's certainly one way to do it, and just make it clear that this is when the script is, at least this draft of the script, or maybe it's the final version is due by, and you have between now and then, and you kind of have more of a loose interpretation of exactly when certain things need to be done to get there, but it's the employees are expected to deliver.
Yeah.
Come through it, right. Good. Anybody else? That's a good example. No problem. But essentially, there can be numerous examples certainly, but it's all about competing on the unit you're in and making sure that, again, you have that buy-in by all of your employees. So then you have strategic management, which is basically different techniques for analyzing an industry, and it's going to involve some of the things we're going to talk about in chapter 2. But it really is kind of taking a external and internal view of what's going on. So when I say external, what do you think I might be referring to? What would be, if you're a company or you're starting a company, what are some things externally you got to consider? So yes.
Maybe like competitors.
Right, competitors. Yeah, that's a big one. Competitors and what are their marketing business strategies? Because maybe you want to do something. Maybe you try to compete head to head with them, but maybe you decide to do something a little bit different, which is usually kind of the way you want to go. Is not go exactly the way they're doing things. Good. That's good. Your name again is Hannah, right? Okay. Good. Anybody else? So competitors being one external factor. Yes.
Cost, like what the competitors charging for their products, versus if you
Right.
can find a way to make it cheaper or
Mm-hmm.
at the same cost, better quality.
Good. Yeah. Good. Now that's one thing we're going to talk about here in a minute. Just looking at considering those types of things, right? Exactly. Costs and looking at what are competitors doing? I mean, maybe you decide that you want to go in and you want to try to offer something at a lower cost. Well, you come in and you can do that. You have to consider though your own cost though. How can you do that? I mean, if you're a retailer, for instance, you're trying to go up against Walmart and you're trying to go in low cost. It's pretty tough because they have such massive what we call economies of scale, which we'll get to, that they can buy in such massive bulk from these massive quantities, from their suppliers and from all the different companies that represent all the products in their stores. It's tough to do, but you could still do it. You could do it with media, certainly. If you're a production company, you find out what some other production companies that do some similar things to you. If you find out what they might charge to do like a short promotional video or maybe a little longer form video, if you can kind of get that information, then certainly you can use that to your advantage and try to undercut them a little bit on price. Not a bad idea. Or maybe you decide to go the other route. Maybe you said, okay, well, we're going to have excellent customer service, and we're going to have top of the line equipment. We're going to outdo our competitors in what maybe we've seen a lot of their work, and maybe we feel like creatively and in writing wise and all, we can do a better job. But maybe we have some more tangible knowledge too of the equipment that they're using, audio, video equipment, and we feel like, hey, that we've got better quality, we paid maybe more money for stuff, so maybe we can go in on a higher price point. So yeah, that's a good external one. I'm sorry, you
Late.
late? Okay, thanks. Good. Anything else external? I mean, essentially, yeah, it's anything that it's competition. It's really anything externally that can impact you. It can be consumer trends and things. That can be one when people again they started going from going to Blockbuster and getting videos, getting DVDs or even VHSs before that, and then all of a sudden then they wanted products that were all of a sudden going to be delivered to their doorstep or they wanted digital distribution. That's a big thing when we went and all of a sudden that capability was there. Broadband technology came about in the mid 2000s, and of course it first was in certain areas. Of course now it's really everywhere, and broadband we kind of take it for granted now, right? I mean broadband. I remember having dial-up back in the early 2000s, and I remember downloading a movie trailer. It was a 2-minute long movie trailer. It took like 2 hours to do. So I mean, obviously, the capability for Netflix to do what they've done, and for us to be able to watch all our favorite series now that we don't even really think about, that we just expect. We have an internet connection. We should be able to watch our content, and we get, of course, frustrated if it doesn't come up quickly or there's buffering and things like that. But that is certainly a big consumer trend, and certainly that has a big impact on the industry. Something external. So there's that. There's also things just like the overall general economy that you could say, the economy of the United States or globally, how the economy is doing. You could consider that, or maybe there could be, again, these consumer trends could work in our favor or against us. We'll talk about that. They're called, opportunities and threats. Those are external. So what do you think about internal? What do you think internal is? If that's external, what's kind of the internal stuff? Any idea? So, yes, like,
Hiring the right people, like, based off
Good.
of what you want to, part of your strategy is finding those people that can do it, maybe with the micro way of not, or macro way of not being involved and stuff like that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, find the right people. And the key thing about the internal part is basically what you can control within your organization. So the external factors we got to keep an eye on, but we can't control anything the economy's doing. We can't, if we're going to go into another recession, which hopefully won't happen anytime soon, but you never know. We can't ourselves control that, right? Or we can't control consumer trends. I mean, we'd like to introduce some great technology that people jump all over, but for the most part, that's external. But in terms of who we hire and hiring the best people, and in terms of maybe infrastructure, in terms of new equipment or new technology that we're bringing in, new software, whatever it might be, all those kind of things, certainly internal. Good. Good. Do you have anything else you want to add?
I guess just also like budget and monetary constraints.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely like an internal factor as you have to allocate your funds in a certain area where you feel it would be best to optimize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That definitely, no doubt. The financial part of it, piece of it is a big thing. And considering those things, considering that certain things might end up costing us a little bit more than we anticipated, so then we've got to make cutbacks in other areas. And we can look at a lot of this stuff being kind of synonymous almost with even personal lives, right? I mean, when it comes to finances and stuff, sometimes something happens. Sometimes, unfortunately, our car breaks down, or blow a tire, need a new tire or something. We didn't anticipate that expense, so maybe unfortunately we got to cut back a little bit, and hanging out with friends or whatever, or going out to hit the bar a few times or something. We just have to make some adjustments and all of that. So one of the big scholars in this area is this guy Michael Porter, strategic management, and kind of think, I don't know, he kind of looks like Anderson Cooper as well. Maybe there's some kind of relation there, but anyway, he was the one who kind of really pushed along this idea of strategic management and some of these things about internal, external analysis, which we'll talk about more in chapter 2. But, he really looked at, he introduced some new language, some new concepts, and he wrote several books, like Competitive Strategy was one. Back in the 80s, he wrote 2 really pretty groundbreaking books, and he's cited quite a bit. I mean, he's a general sort of management person, and that's his expertise. But within the media industry, certainly he's been cited a lot. I know I've cited him a lot in some research and work that I've done and things. There's just a real short video that he kind of talks about, which I think is kind of interesting in terms of what can make a business successful. And I kind of like, in a way, what he says, because it kind of goes against some conventional wisdom that's out there. And but anyway, I'll just show you this real quick, and we'll talk about it briefly, just a minute, 35 seconds.
Bad oriented. Managers, there's a flavor of them, it's merging or it's outsourcing or whatever. But what was really lacking in the field, and really continues to be a great challenge, is really an underlying framework for what are the true underlying principles, the true underlying economics of companies. So, and I think that there's 2 or 3 of those that I would highlight here. I think number one, to compete successfully, you've got to have the appropriate goal. This is one of the biggest problems in American business. Businesses have the wrong goal. They're trying to maximize shareholder value. That's actually the wrong goal. That, if you measure shareholder value by the stock price, that says that you're trying to please shareholders. If you start out with the goal of trying to please shareholders, you will destroy your company. It's 100% certain in my experience. The right goal for any business is to achieve a superior return on investment. And so you've got to start with the right goal. You've got to start fundamentally with the principle that any true competitive success requires uniqueness. It requires you to be different. It requires you to create some different form of value than your competitors do. Yet so many companies today just mindlessly imitate their competitors. They try to replicate best practices. They follow the latest trend. And so, I mean, again, we could go on, but those 2 simple insights I think are extraordinarily important in separating successful enterprises or nonprofits or government even from others.